Alright. Just gonna slide my camera over here. There we go. Today we've got multiple symbols of inclusion and more on order of operations. We always kind of joke about these. More on. We have a lot of lessons that are more on. It just means that we're not really going to learn anything new. We're just going to do more with something we've already learned. So things are going to get a little bit more complicated a lot of times. They maybe look a little bit more advanced. But this is one of our more on lessons. When we spoke a little bit yesterday about order of operations, we said work from our innermost to outermost. These are better examples of that, where we've got a whole bunch of symbols of inclusion, parentheses, and a lot of times we don't like to write parentheses the same way because it gets confusing as to which goes with which, so we use these brackets sometimes, and sometimes we just use regular parentheses. So here we just have -3 times this whole thing. But in order to find out what this thing is, to multiply it by -3, we have to first find out what this times this is. But in order to find out what this times this is, we first have to find out what -2 minus 3 is. So we start with the innermost parentheses, and that'd be this one, and then the next set is this goofy shaped set of parentheses, and then we work our way out to our outermost parentheses. And so I'm just going to rewrite. I don't like drawing those parentheses, but we've got -5, and then this is still -2. Now we've got -5 times -2, which is +10. And -3 times +10 is -30. So our numerator simplifies to -30. And this is going to be a little bit quicker. Order of operations says do your subtraction. Because it's inside parentheses, take care of your parentheses first before you do your multiplication here. So this is -3 times 2, which equals -6. A fraction is a division problem, so what this is saying is -30 divided by -6. And whenever you divide a negative by a negative, you end up with a positive. It simplifies to 5. So we've got multiple symbols of inclusion here. Alright, here we probably have our best example yet of working innermost to outermost parentheses. Really what we have here is this big long expression here, -2. So something -2. Who knows what it is? 7, 8, 9. We don't know. The math isn't difficult here. It's the rules. And so in order to find this, we have to take 4 times this whole guy. But in order to find this guy, we have to find this -5. But in order to take that and get that, we have to multiply these 3 together. And in order to multiply these 3, we first have to find out what these inside parentheses equal first. So we work from our innermost to our outermost parentheses. And rewrite, rewrite, rewrite. So I'm going to take just a little bit at a time here. I'm not very good at drawing those parentheses. 2. -3 minus 2 is -5. -7 plus 4 is -3. And then this is -5. I'm not going to simplify that yet. Can't do anything with that. -2. So all I did was simplify these two guys. So let's go through again. Still working our way innermost to outermost. So this simplifies to -5 times 3 is +15 minus 5. Probably should have drawn this like this so that doesn't confuse. Anyone? Minus 2. So all I did here was take these two guys and multiply them together. And I don't multiply this yet because I first got to subtract this 5. So 4, just rewriting, 2 times 15 minus 5 is 10. Then minus 2. This is now all multiplication. I've got 4 times 2 times 10. I can do this in any order because multiplication is commutative. So I'm going to take, just keep rewriting the 4. 4 times 2 times 10 is 20. Minus 2. 4 times 20 is 80. Minus 2 equals 78. So we worked our way from innermost to outermost. And again, encourage you to rewrite so that you don't make any careless mistakes. Sorry about that. The math is never difficult. It's always about the rules. Don't break any rules, and the math is pretty simple. The biggest number that we started off with was a 7 in the original problem, a negative 7. There were no decimals and no fractions. Just simply teaching you the rules of orders of operation. Alright, the last part of our lesson is just kind of a review. The idea that when we multiply a negative number together, a negative number by another negative number, we end up with a positive number. So negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. And the question then is, what if we multiplied 3 negative numbers together? We can multiply 1 by itself as many times as we want. The question is this positive 1 or is this negative 1? And every pair we kind of think of as canceling each other out. And so negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 gives us a negative 1 because we have a pair, but then we have 1 left over that doesn't cancel out. That's one way to think of it. So if we had negative 1 times itself 4 times, if every pair cancels out, here's a pair that cancel out to be positive, here's another pair that cancel out to be positive, and so there are no negative 1s left over. They all have a pair, so they all cancel out. Negative 1 times itself 4 times is positive 1. We'll do one more here. Oops. I just backed that up. Negative 1 times itself 5 times then. As you can probably guess, this is going to cancel each other out. Here's a pair. Here's a pair. We got 1 left over. The answer is negative 1. So basically when you're multiplying, if you had an odd number of negative signs, then your product and your multiplication is going to be a negative then. And if you have an even number, it makes sense that they're all going to pair up. If you have an even number of negative signs, your answer is going to be positive.